Who is the Sentry, and is it possible that we're going to meet one of the most powerful Earth-level Marvel heroes to date in the Thunderbolts? Well, the answer is absolutely we are. We recently got the release of the Thunderbolts trailer, and it's been calling back to the old days of the MCU, providing a political thriller akin to Captain America the Winter Soldier. We got a look back at Yelena and what she's been up to in the years since Black Widow, and an updated glance into several fan-favorite characters like John Walker, Buckley, Alexei, and many others. Despite the rest of the teaser seemingly fairly grounded, we do know that there is one character who will embody the more deified side of the MCU. One character is said to have a tremendous amount of power that eclipses anyone else on the team, and this is going to be the Sentry, the Golden Guardian of the Marvel Comics. So what exactly is the Sentry, and what does he have to do with the rest of the Thunderbolts? Well, let's break it all down today. Sentry's origins can actually be traced all the way back to the waning days of World War II and the aftermath of the conflict that rocked the world. Throughout the war, the Allied forces understood that Erskine's original formula for the Super Soldier program had been seemingly lost, but that didn't stop the greatest minds of the time from trying to figure out how to replicate the same serum. The creation of Captain America ushered in the golden age of heroes, and for decades, the lost secret of the Super Soldier program had been one of the most sought-after mysteries in Marvel Comics and the MCU. After World War II ended, a team of researchers who previously contributed to Project Rebirth pooled their resources in order to not only create, but amplify the effects of the Super Soldier serum that created Captain America. By 1947, when the team was assembled, Steve Rogers had been lost and was presumed dead, so these researchers were left with almost nothing. During their research, however, they did create a compound known as the Golden Sentry Serum, an experimental formula that would grant a user the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns. This compound was designed to do so much more than the original serum, which could physically perfect the human body and create some of the most physically capable athletes in the world if it was done correctly. The original serum, however, could only unlock the theoretical capacity of the human body and what it was already capable of, but the Golden Sentry Serum was designed to grant a human complete godhood. Before it could be finalized and taken public though, a homeless vagrant by the name of Robert Reynolds broke into the lab. This is the person who we actually see in the trailer who introduces themselves as Bob. At this point in his life, Reynolds was a meth addict, facing poverty and homelessness, and was being driven to more and more desperate means. When he entered the lab, he consumed the Golden Sentry Serum, and this gave him immense cosmic power of a living star. He was able to harness the aforementioned power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, which was an estimate provided by the very same scientists who engineered the compound in the first place. Appalled by what their experiment had created though, the researchers begged Reynolds to remain in their lab and let them study his new power, hoping to understand it before it could be used to shape the world at large. In the teaser for the Thunderbolts, Bob is wearing what looks to be a medical scrub, leading us to believe that this is the black site where Reynolds either is being held or where he received the treatment in the first place. In this scene, the team learns that they were all sent somewhere to be exterminated, and when the gates close, the implication is that this is a death trap. Since Bob is in the same vault, it seems like he is the death sentence, and the Thunderbolts were lured here to not only be killed by someone who wants them dead, but it will also be a training ground for the Sentry to practice. In essence, whoever created Sentry is using him as a trap to kill the Thunderbolts, but he seems just as confused as the rest of the team is. But more on that in just a minute. Here in the comics, Reynolds learned how to harness his immense power, and as he grew, many teams and factions began to regard him as one of the most dangerous forces on all of Earth. Reynolds as an unmatched well of solar radiation that he can tap into to create some of the most powerful energy projections of any hero, in addition to invulnerability and strength that has allowed him to go toe-to-toe with the Hulk himself. Sentry is regarded as an Omega-level threat by both Nick Fury and Mr. Fantastic. But while he has immense physical strength, his greatest downfall and weakness is often his own psyche. His power relies heavily on his own mental stability, both in the sense of his own mental fortitude and simply what he knows about his powers. Oftentimes, even he himself does not know the limits of what he is capable of, and in some cases, he's only come to learn his entire power sets very late in life. After a confrontation with Molecule Man, Reynolds began to understand that he could perform very similar feats without any prior knowledge that his power reached these limits. This means that he can uncover new abilities with each passing project. His ability to rearrange matter on a molecular level wasn't in his base set, but made him much stronger in the stories that followed. His nigh invulnerability and unmatched strength have allowed him to go toe-to-toe with the most dangerous threats in the galaxy, battling the likes of Galactus and the Hulk, and being able to hold his own relatively well. He has even ripped Ares, the literal god of war, in half. In the World War Hulk storyline, Reynolds is in a frail mental state and slipping from control as he faces an enraged Hulk. The two titans nearly leveled the city as Sentry's powers were at the cusp of being completely out of control, and the fight ended with a stalemate once they were both drained of their energy. But it's important to remember that he wasn't at the top of his game here, and this is not the most powerful version of the Sentry. For years, he was widely a respected hero, a paragon of virtue, and was widely acclaimed. But this would all prove to be short-lived. Soon after, the Avengers came face to face with a mysterious shadow monster that fed off of the powers of fear. This entity, simply known as the Void, was a clairvoyant, unstoppable, untouchable killing machine, one who seemed to feed on the terror of others. Initially, the heroes of Earth believed the Void to be an obscure, shadowy monster from some other dimension, but as they began to look for ways to defeat the Void, the truth became much more complicated. After having murdered over 1 million people in New York, it was discovered that the Void was actually a dark manifestation of the Sentry's power, a dark mirror to Reynolds himself. As the Avengers continued to fight the Void, it became clear that there was no clear-cut way to get rid of the entity without also killing Robert in the process. Unable to combat this threat, Reynolds, in tandem with Reed Richards and Doctor Strange, came up with a solution that would result in the loss of Reynolds' memory and his reputation as a hero. In order to defeat the Void, they had to cripple the Sentry in order to starve the Void of its power, since the two were two sides of the same entity. This meant effectively rewriting history so that nobody could remember Reynolds, nor could they remember the existence of the Sentry. This same spell was actually used recently in the MCU when Doctor Strange made the entire world forget who Peter Parker was, and everything that he had accomplished in his life. All of his friends, allies, and remaining relatives had no memory of Reynolds, and Peter would fade from the public awareness as well, which is exactly what happened to the Sentry. Together, the trio wiped the memory of everyone on Earth, making them forget any association or memory that they had regarding the Sentry, sending Reynolds into exile. The Void, however, is an important fixture of the Sentry's story, and we don't currently know if it will play a role in the Thunderbolts or not, but this might be the purpose of the vault scene. As we mentioned earlier, we are confident that Reynolds is going to try to kill the Thunderbolts after the blast doors close, or perhaps they convince him to join them and his powers are revealed later. But what's important is we don't know if it's the Void or the Sentry attacking. Since Bob is just as confused as the rest of them, it's possible that the Void will corrupt Reynolds in this scene, basically puppeteering him as he has no knowledge or control over his actions, and this may be the first glimpse into the Void that we see in the comics. Over the years, he had held spots on both the Avengers and their counterpart, the Dark Avengers teams, which may be where the Thunderbolts is headed in the near future. The asterisk in the title has gained a lot of controversy in recent months, and many believe that it was deliberately placed there to indicate that the team is not final in the Thunderbolts form, and could either be the Dark Avengers or the rumored New Avengers, which by the way I don't think is a good idea. Anyway, it could be a running gag in the film that the team is trying to figure out what to call themselves, and the Thunderbolts is actually a placeholder. If this is the case, then one option is that they will end up being the Dark Avengers, which we know that the Sentry has already had an association with. Not only has he been a part of the Dark Avengers and the de facto Avengers, but he has faced both of these teams on several occasions due to how fallible his moral and mental state is. It's disturbingly easy for Sentry to slip into the persona of the Void, and seeing this dark incarnation take over and to puppet the Sentry with no moral bounds, what the Void is capable of is anyone's guess. But anyway, friends, what do you think of the story of Robert Reynolds? What does this mean for the Thunderbolts project? And what can we expect to see from the Sentry and the Void in the future of the MCU? Do you think he's going to become a cornerstone of the MCU going forward? And will the Void be defeated at the end of the Thunderbolts? Or will he become a looming threat that is never fully resolved until the Sentry and the Void is killed? As always, my friends, Hulk smash that subscribe button for more Marvel lore, and I hope you're having a phenomenal day.